Modern China's auto industry is made up of hundreds of brands and models, ranging from scooters to premium electric cars. But this entire powerful empire basically grew out of just two companies whose history dates back to the mid-20th century. One of them is the second automobile plant, now known as Dongfang, which translates to Eastern Wind. How did a company that took 16 years to build in remote mountains out of fear of war become the king of joint ventures? And how did a former apprentice later manage to save European auto giants from collapse? Today we're talking about the history of Dongfang. And what about you, our dear viewers? Do you like Chinese cars? Maybe you have experience driving Dongfeng vehicles. Let us know in the comments and let's get started. China in the early 1950s was radically different from what it is today. It was a war-torn agrarian country where 90% of the impoverished peasants toiled away in rice fields. In 1949, the communists, led by Mao Zedong, came to power. The country needed industrialization. So, in July 1953, the firstborn of the local auto industry appeared in the city of Changchun, the first automobile works. But one factory wasn't enough for such a large country. The decision to build the second automobile works was actually made back in 1952. However, putting it into action turned into a real saga. At first, they wanted to build a factory in Wuhan, but the military rejected the idea. A plant in the valley would be too vulnerable to airstrikes. Then they considered the city of Chengdu, but there just wasn't enough money. They revisited the idea in 1958, but due to the disastrous policies of the Great Leap Forward, which led to economic collapse and famine, the project was put on hold again. It wasn't until 1967 that the first stone of the new factory was laid deep in the mountains of Hubei province, near a tiny settlement of just 100 residents. Such a remote location was a perfect fit for the Third Front Movement program. The idea was to move strategic facilities into the mountains, far from potential air and sea strikes. Construction was incredibly difficult. There were no roads and no heavy machinery. Workers from the first automobile plant who were sent here literally used their bare hands and primitive tools to carve through the rocks and clear a site for the workshops. By 1971, the plant was finally opened. The official name was the second automobile plant, and all products were to be released under the Dongfang brand. By the way, this name wasn't chosen by accident. It refers to a well-known political statement by Mao Zedong, "The east wind prevails over the west wind." This phrase symbolized the belief that the socialist bloc, led by China, would eventually triumph over the capitalist West. Such ideological messages and construction delays were closely tied to the isolation of the PRC. Relations with the USSR soured after the start of de-Stalinization. And things didn't work out with the US either because they supported Taiwan. Beijing had to rely solely on its own resources. The main task at that time was to rearm the military. That's why the first vehicles to roll off the assembly line were the Dongfeng Q230 military all-wheel drive 6x6 trucks. These trucks, with a payload capacity of 2.5 tons, had a classic layout. What really stood out were the wide, straight fenders with brackets for the headlights. This feature made the Chinese truck look a lot like the Soviet Ural 375. Some people still consider them a direct copy of the Ural. Others insist that the Chinese were simply inspired by the design, especially since there was never any official licensing agreement between the two countries. What do you think, is the Dongfang Q240 a copy of the Ural 375? Or is it just a similarity in design? Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll keep going. Under the hood, the Q240 had a gasoline inline-6 engine with a displacement of 5.4 liters and 135 horsepower. These vehicles went through their real baptism by fire during the Sino-Vietnamese War in 1979. According to legends that are still kept alive in China, even with a punctured radiator and numerous bullet holes, the Q240s kept evacuating soldiers from the battlefield. For this endurance, the model was awarded the honorary nickname Hero Truck. In the early 90s, these vehicles were renamed Q2080. And when Dongfeng created a joint venture with the Americans, the trucks received a 6-liter Cummins turbo diesel with 160 horsepower and a new designation, EQ 2081. They are still in service with the Chinese Army, and in the 90s, about 400 export units were even purchased by Peru. Military orders provided stability, but after Mao Zedong's death, army budgets were significantly reduced. The factory had to urgently look for opportunities in the civilian sector, since the country was beginning to develop rapidly and needed equipment for building cities. The first automobile works helped by granting Dongfang the rights to produce its promising Jifeng CA140 model. This model was intended to replace the outdated Jifeng CA10, which was a Chinese copy of the ZIS 150. It was this 5-ton hooded truck, produced as the Dongfang EQ 140 since 1978, that saved the company from losses. The truck truly became a people's vehicle. Dump trucks, tankers, tractors, fire engines. In 1984, the cab was updated with a single-piece windshield, and in 1992, Japanese Nissan diesel engines appeared under the hood. In total, over 1 million of these trucks were produced. In the 80s, with the start of Deng Xiaoping's reforms, a new era began for the factory. In 1981, there was a large-scale merger, and the company absorbed about 300 small suppliers. It was then, in 1982, that the brand's famous double swallow and a circle logo appeared. The designer's idea was simple. Swallows flying toward the eastern wind symbolize spring, rapid development, and good luck. The first Dongfang passenger cars began to be assembled by the subsidiary company Peugeot Automobile. These were licensed Mitsubishi minivans produced under the name Fangxing Lingji. Later, the brand produced cars based on Nissan platforms, and since 2018, it has adopted the English name Forsane. In the 90s, the Chinese government focused on creating joint ventures with Western giants. That's when joint production with Peugeot Citroën began. A real line of investors formed in the 2000s when China joined the WTO. Joint factories with Kia, Honda, and Volvo appeared. But despite their passion for passenger cars, Dongfang never forgot where they started, from heavy machinery. In 2006, they launched a new family of Dongfeng Tianlong long-haul trucks on the market. These giant trucks quickly took over Asia's highways, proving that the Chinese had learned to make not just light trucks, but also serious commercial vehicles for long-haul drivers. At home, Dongfang rightfully earned the unofficial title of King of Joint Ventures. The company consistently produced over 2 million vehicles a year and was among the top 2 leaders in the Chinese automotive industry. By the way, in 2014, an unprecedented event occurred. The former student saved his teacher. The French conglomerate Peugeot Citroën was on the verge of bankruptcy, and it was Dongfang that injected life-saving billions into the company by purchasing 14% of its shares and becoming one of the main shareholders of the European giant. The pandemic and the crisis made their own adjustments. Sales dropped, pushing the company down to 4th place in China. To regain its former glory, Dongfeng made a sharp turn toward cutting-edge technologies. Today, they offer budget electric cars under the Nami brand and rugged M-Hero SUVs. These monsters put out over 1,000 horsepower, feature military-style design, and can even drive sideways like a crab. The premium Voya vehicles deserve special attention. With this brand, Dongfang is actively targeting not only the domestic market but also demanding Europe. The lineup now includes the luxurious Voya Free crossover, the premium Voya Dream minivan, and the prestigious Voya Passion sedan, all designed to shatter old stereotypes about cheap Chinese cars. The story of Dongfang is essentially a mirror of China's own history over the past 70 years. It's a journey from an isolated agrarian country with risky social experiments to a powerful industrial giant, an actual factory of the world that today sets the rules on the global market.